I'll start by saying that I, female 32, have been with my husband Bob, 39, for 3 years, married for 1 year. His mom has a habit of keeping me out of most of their functions using the excuse, "You work too much." That's not true because sometimes I make myself available but still find myself excluded. Last week, his mom invited us for a celebratory dinner at the restaurant after she completed her recovery. Unfortunately, I had to work that day, but I let her and everyone know I'd be there at 8 p.m. Bob knew I was coming. When I arrived at the restaurant, I saw that the table was full. All chairs had been taken and I just stood there with complete puzzlement while Bob and his mom stared at me. His mom then told me there was no place left for me and that I could either have Bob get up and take his seat or go home. I was so upset, but instead of going home, I just went and took an entire table for myself. Bob and his mom watched me with their eyes popping out their heads like they'd seen something shocking. Not gonna lie, I did get weird looks from the guests, but so did Bob and his mom. It was awkward in all honesty. I had my dinner and dessert, then went home. I saw Bob and his mom staring at me grudgingly while I was making my way out. He got home an hour later and he yelled at me, saying I embarrassed his mom in front of her guests. I yelled, asking what I was supposed to do after I got denied a seat, and he told me that it wasn't his nor his mom's fault guests arrived before me and took all the available chairs. I told him he could have saved me a chair. He said that I could have just left instead and reminded me that I was a guest and that I shouldn't expect this level of entitlement to be accepted. He then went on about how I ruined the entire dinner for him and his mom with what I did and has been pouting about it for days. I don't get it, I really don't. Was my expectation really that entitled? As his wife, he should have saved me a seat. But clearly, I'm missing something here. Not the idiot. They could have booked a table with the appropriate seating. They could have pulled up a chair and budged up if a random extra guest turned up. They could have split the table in two. They could have texted you before you arrived and said, "There's an issue with the table." Why are you married to someone who would sit there staring at you instead of doing something to help and then blame the situation on you? Exactly, they could have done so many things if they cared about OP. When I dine with large groups and someone else shows up, we either scoot closer together and pull up another chair or add another table to our group. Everyone at that dinner party blows. If I were there and witnessed this interaction, your best bet is I would have gone and joined OP and picked up the tab to give their savagery the respect it is due. Or mother-in-law could have reserved a table for all the people she invited, including OP. Then there would have been enough chairs to begin with. To me, this sounds like she had planned this exactly to be like this in advance, knowing OP would be later. OP, you're not a guest. You're family, but not in their eyes. It's not showing entitlement to expect respect. Is this level of disrespect really what you want for the next 20 years? If you reevaluate your marriage, you will probably find other red flags too. Consider if you want to spend the rest of your life being put second to your husband's mom. Honestly, I had to read the whole thing 3 times to process what I was reading. This man doesn't need to get a mistress, he has his mom. The disrespect towards his wife left my jaw dropped, and I thought I couldn't be surprised anymore. You shouldn't expect. Yes, OP should expect decent behaviour and respect from a mother-in-law. They're married. You don't exclude your own child's wife. I don't just jump to divorce, but I can't imagine any level of couple therapy that can save this marriage if the husband is that big of a mama's boy. I, female 33, found out that my ex-husband, male 37, cheated on me when I was 7 months pregnant with our son. I got a divorce and we share custody of our toddler son. My ex-husband's girlfriend tried to get involved in my parenting several times. She even commented on my son's name, implying that we should agree on a name we all wanted, not just what I wanted, and tried to dictate what he should and shouldn't have. As a result, she started throwing out the stuff of his that I paid for myself. Honestly, it's frustrating because I'm barely getting by with the money I have and can't afford to buy a replacement for all the stuff she throws out. But my ex-husband says it's her house and she gets to decide what can and can't enter. I made a crochet blanket for my son with his name on it. This blanket is special to me, and the tools I used to be able to make it cost me money, not to mention the time and effort it took to get it down. I sent my son to stay with his dad days ago and he wanted to take the blanket with him to sleep with it. I don't know exactly what happened, but when I came to pick him up, he told me his dad's girlfriend took it away from him and threw it out, leaving him with no blanket to sleep with at night as punishment for him for not accepting the one she offered. I was furious. I called his dad, but he hung up on me. I sent him a text explaining the situation, but he texted back telling me that I should stop the drama and go look for a job if I had so much free time on my hand instead of picking on his girlfriend. I felt frustrated. I visited his family, who were good to me, and told them about what their son's girlfriend did. Now, it's worth mentioning that she's been working hard for their approval and to get on their good side. They were shocked at what she did. They all flipped out on her and started calling her out. My sister-in-law took it further by putting this on social media, which made other family members see what she did. My ex-husband called me, yelling about my pathetic attempt to turn his family against his girlfriend. I could hear her freaking out in the background while he was lashing out at me, saying I ruined every chance she had to have a good relationship with her future in-laws. I hung up and felt horrible, even though I was venting to his family about what happened and felt frustrated. Maybe I shouldn't have told them. I'm not sure anymore since the whole family isn't speaking to her, so that might have a lasting impact on their relationship with her. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. Document, document, document. They are abusing your son emotionally and mentally by throwing out his comfort objects to help him transition between houses. And I guarantee they're saying negative things about you to your son. Get your son to a child psychologist so they can document any issues your son has with your ex and his girlfriend. Then go to court and get the custody agreement changed to state the girlfriend can't be around the child. Depending on the ex's actions, you might even be able to get full custody. Finally, keep your ex's family in your son's life as much as possible, even if you remarry. He deserves to know his family. That's exactly what's happening, and say it louder for the people in the back. She's hurting the child because she cannot hurt OP. As the child grows up, the abuse will get worse. Document it, contact a lawyer and change the custody agreement before more damage is done to your son. So she uses the kid you have with your ex as a sort of weapon, something to make you angry with. Jesus, what is your ex seeing in that woman? It's one thing if she doesn't want to have your stuff in their home, though I'm not sure a blanket qualifies as such, but quite another to act this way, and she's surprised her potential in-laws aren't glad about it. She has only herself to blame. Yeah, seriously, the ex's girlfriend is his affair partner, and the affair broke up his marriage before his child was born. Any decent person will take issue with that. His family doesn't have any reason to like her based on that alone, and if she's now doing things to hurt their grandson or nephew, that only makes things worse. My male teen, Mom, 39, remarried John, 44. He has 2 daughters, Kayla, a young teen, and Janice, a teen. They remarried about 4 years ago, and John's parents hate us. They don't like the fact that John remarried and hate me especially, but I think of John as my dad and Kayla and Janice as my sisters. So it was Kayla's birthday a few days ago, and her grandparents, who adore her, wanted to have a surprise party for her, but keep it between family only. So when I heard of it, I was excited and helped with the cake, etc. On the day, everyone was getting ready and it was going fine until John's parents asked, "What are my mom and him doing here? They're intruding on the party." They then told me that I wasn't technically part of their side of the family and that they were clear enough to say it was a family-only party. I was upset and argued back, and during all the chaos, the surprise aspect of the party kind of fell through, and basically Kayla came back to see everyone fighting. John's parents told me I ruined the party, and they brought Kayla and Janice and John back to their place instead to celebrate. I think what they did was unreasonable, but I also think that I may be the idiot because family dynamics are complicated. I may have blown everything out of proportion. Holy cow, not the idiot. Also, it's hard to determine if John or John's parents are the bigger idiots here. I lean slightly toward John for not standing up for the woman he married and saying this is my family, like it or lump it. Everyone is wrong here except you, my dude. Stand your ground for you and your mum. So they were making a surprise party at your parents' place and expected you and your mother to leave during that time? That's just so much BS, especially since they didn't seem to have any problem with you helping them set everything up. Screw them. They are the idiots. They said family only, and you and your mother are now family whether they like it or not. What were you two expected to do? Leave your home for a few hours and not attend a party happening there? That is unacceptable on their part, and I can't believe your stepfather went along with it. I mean, he's a 44-year-old man and left with them. That's the most concerning part about this to me. You are a young teen. This is not a situation you should have been put in to begin with. I'm finding it hard to understand why more people are not identifying John as the giant idiot, I mean, sure, the grandparents are awful, that's a given, but John saw this go down and then left his wife and stepchild to party with his real family? Really? That's an actual idiot move. I, 40 male, have 6 kids with my wife, 40. My brother, 30, lives close by and my kids see him a lot and love him. He's getting married to his fiancée, 30 female, in 3 months. This wasn't an issue until recently. This year in school, our young teen son friend group became friends with a gay boy. The boys bonded over their love of sports as my son and his friends play hockey and the boy ice skates. There's an ice sports place in our area that our son plays hockey at and often sees his skating friend there. This year, the boy was being bullied for his sexuality and wearing makeup. My son and his friends were upset and defended him and always complimented him on his makeup and nails. Once he did the school colours as a look. The boys had an upcoming tournament and he wanted to support them. The boy thought this was cool and asked if he could do a look for them. He did and they loved it. As a result, my son and his friends have been experimenting more with how they look. For example, my son found a vintage suit online when we went wedding clothes shopping. He also said he wanted to wear makeup. His friend did a look for him and he loved it. I texted my brother a pic of my son to see what he thought, as he and his fiancée wanted to see the guests' outfits before the wedding. When I sent him a pic of my son, he told me that he didn't want kids wearing makeup at his wedding, but this didn't make any sense as my tween daughter was wearing makeup and he had already seen her look. So I called him out on it and then he admitted he didn't want my son wearing makeup because he was a boy and our family, as well as the family of the bride, are evangelical and traditional. He said he didn't want anyone looking gay because that could start something. He said he didn't mind my son wearing makeup but didn't want it at the wedding. I called him to try to sort things out, but it only got worse because he then started talking about how my son is a bit edgy and has said stuff that offended our religious family. Then he said my son wasn't invited because he was too afraid that my son would do something to upset our family. After the call, I spoke with my wife and we agreed that none of us would if our son couldn't go. We were upset at my brother and felt he was rude, especially for saying our son looked gay. Our son has only liked girls and we'd be okay if he was gay. I called him after and he told me to speak to my son and ask him to drop the makeup and not make any edgy remarks. When I told my son, he got upset and asked if his uncle cared about him. I didn't want to upset my son more, so I called my brother and told him we were all coming, including my son, in makeup or none of us at all. He said I was being a jerk. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot at all. Your brother sounds phobic. You made the right decision and your son will be thankful you stood up for him. I can't believe an adult is uninviting a kid just because of makeup. Seriously, so dumb. What a great son you have, standing up for others. I wish we had more of that. Sad that your brother's religion is not love everyone for who they are. Your brother is happier appeasing bigots over being decent to your kid. Not the idiot, full stop. And what kind of broken doorknob of a couple asked to pre-approve a relative guest's kid's wedding outfit? Jiminy cricket. Just do a casting call and hire your perfect guests and call it a day, you superficial, dehydrated tadpoles. You are the idiot simply because it's not your wedding and it's not about you. If a bride tells her bridesmaids to wear red and one wears black, then it's a huge distraction and an offense to the bride. I'm sure you and your son are cool and all that, but the makeup would be a huge distraction and, in turn, make the wedding all about your son. If a dude wearing makeup is a huge distraction, you have some growing up to do. It's a minor novelty at most. As for the bigger issue, OP, your brother is showing who he is. That's very sad. He only loves your kids if they adhere to his standards. All of the males in your family should show up in full makeup and kilts. Oops, I'm being petty again. I, 45 female, have 2 kids, tweens male and female, and my husband, 47, has 2 daughters, 18 and teen. My husband is very strict with his daughters, less with his oldest obviously, and I think he sees my kids as his too. He's strict with them and my kids don't mind much since he's their only father figure and has a good relationship with them. He's very protective over all the kids. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday and my husband spent most of the day with his daughters at his parents' house, so I left my kids home and told them I'd be back later. My doctor took longer than expected and by the time I was on my way back, my husband had called me. I didn't answer since I was driving and when I got back he was really mad and told me that I was an irresponsible parent for leaving the kids home alone. He said they were still young and couldn't take care of themselves. I said they're tweens, not 6 and 5. He was even angrier that I talked back to him and told me I should have gotten a neighbour to watch the kids. I said again that the kids were old enough to be alone and they were perfectly capable of taking care of themselves for a few hours. My husband said he had enough and told me that from now on I have to stay home if he's not home before he went upstairs. It took me a while to cool down. I was really mad. But later I wondered if he was right, since my kids could have still gotten into trouble. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot for leaving kids alone if you as their parent felt they were mature enough to handle it. They're not babies anymore. But holy smokes, the rest of your story throws red flags regarding your husband. Angry at you for talking back? Telling you when you are and are not allowed to leave the house? Huh? Is this typical in your relationship? Also, if he knew she was going to the doctor, why didn't he stay home with the children or take them with him? It almost seems like he intentionally wasn't around, so OP would have to stay home with her kids rather than see her doctor. The husband extends his strict rules for the kids to his wife. I only see this getting worse if OP doesn't do something to nip this in the bud quick. If she can't, she'll have some hard decisions. OP, he is not your parent and has no right to order you to do anything. He has no right to get angry at talking back. You're a grown adult having a conversation about a disagreement, not a petulant toddler. How condescending.